Hello there, everyone. It's Kathy with Paper Phenomenon. I'm here to share how to print 12 by 12 paper on an 8.5 by 11 printer. All right, so you're going to convert a 12 by 12 to an 8.5 by 11 without any distortion, without having to pick a side of the paper, without cropping anything out. You're going to need a version of Photoshop. I use Adobe Photoshop to shop Adobe Photoshop 2018. It is a very simple version of Photoshop. Disclaimer, guys, I am an amateur Photoshop user, so what I'm going to show you is what I know. All I know. I know nothing else. It doesn't matter how you get to the end result. What matters is that you get there, right? So this is how I get there, and I'm going to show you my method. All right, it's very, very simple. So again, Adobe Photoshop 2018, printing, taking a 12 by 12 digital paper and printing it on an 8.5 by 11 format. So you don't have to have a wide format printer. All right. While I'm here showing you these papers, this is my Ciao Italia collection. It's gorgeous. I don't have to even say that. Look at it. It's beautiful. But I want to show you the contrast, the difference in colors, that the variation when you use it, that happens from printer to printer. Okay. So this is an inkjet printer. This is my wide format printer. It prints borderless 12 by 12. I use typically a 54 to 60 pound paper. I don't like anything heavier than 60-pound paper for pattern paper. All right. When I make my projects, there's lots of layering. So if I use anything heavier than 60 pounds, it just makes my pages too stiff. I don't like the feeling. I don't like the way it feels. When I print on my 8.5 by 11 printer, which is an inkjet printer, I use a 40-pound paper. What's a 40-pound paper? It's two thicknesses of a paper, of a basic printer paper. Basic printer paper is 20 pounds. Okay, so that's the paper weight that I use. So that's one. Number two, look at the color saturation, the difference. So the colors vary from printer to printer. All right, you're going to get a different result every time. You are 9 times out of 10 not going to get what you see on the screen. Okay, so you have to come to terms with that. What's the best paper to use to print digital papers? You want to start off with the brand of paper that is your printer. If you have an Epson printer, start with an Epson paper. If you have a Canon printer, start with a Canon printer. Canon paper, excuse me. Why? That way you have something to compare it to when you buy a different paper. All right. And that way you know, oh, I like the Canon better. Oh, I like this off-brand better. So start off with that paper. Right. Get one little ream and be done with it. And then if that's expensive, then you go for the less expensive. I personally like matte paper, so that's what I tend to grab. However, even if you get a matte paper and you're printing on an inkjet printer, it's going to have a little shiny, it's going to have a sheen to it. All right, that's what a laser printer does. This inkjet gives you a completely matte finish. All right, so there's a difference. There are the two variations. There's some paper talk there. Hopefully you find that helpful. Now let's get to the resizing. So I'm going to go on my desktop. We're going to open up our Photoshop. There is the Photoshop Elements 2018. I have a Premiere version. I don't use it. I can't even remember if I opened it. This is just what I use. Now you're going to click on Photo Editor, okay? And it's going to open up Photoshop for you. So I want to show you my mouse here. Every time I say crazy mouse is so you can find my mouse and you can go to that where my mouse is. Because sometimes you say, click here and you don't know where the mouse is. So let's get started, guys. The first thing you do is you need to open a file, right? So File, New. Click on Blank File. This is where you determine the size of the paper that you want. Mine defaults to 8.5 by 11 because Photoshop tends to default to whatever the last command was. My last command was to tell this to print to give me a canvas or a file that's 8.5 by 11. So there it is. I don't change anything else. Okay, I just leave it as it is, and then I hit OK. So this is what we're going to print, this size. Now we need to tell it what you want to print on this blank canvas here. So now you want to open a file. So click on Open, and I'm in my Ciao Italia collection. And I'm going to do the same exact one so you can see the transformation. All right. So here is Ciao Italia. This is I use file number 4, and I'm going to open it. It's going to open up to the 12 by 12. All right. This is a 12 by 12 file. This is what the designer picked, 12 by 12, because that's what I wanted, right? So now we don't have a 12 by 12 printer. We want to print this on our 8.5 by 11 printer. So now you want to edit this file. You want to modify it. So you're going to go over to the left, and here's Crazy Mouse. See, I'm on my left-hand side. You want to look at the toolbox and look for Modify. You're going to click on the box that has a green gear. All right, this is the recompose tool. So you're going to resize it. So if you look down here, down left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see a few commands here. You're going to make sure that it says no restriction. If you click on use photo ratio, what's going to happen is it's going to take the square and make it another square. It's going to, if you want an 8.5 by 11 and you click on that aspect ratio, it's going to give you an 8.5 by 8.5. So you want no restrictions. All right. So make sure it says no restrictions. And then in the width, you're going to tell it that you want it to be an 8.5 by 11. So change the size. If you look at this, it doesn't look the best. Okay. It looks kind of kooky. The key to getting a perfect file is the threshold. So down at the bottom, first you're going to see size, and then right below that, there's going to be threshold. You're going to bring that threshold, focus on the image, bring it all the way down to, watch what happens, to 0. And look what happens. Everything just goes to where it needs to go. All right. Why? How? Because? I don't know. It just does it. Okay. So that's it. Now, once you do that, there's another step. There is the step of finishing this file. Now what you want to do is hit the check mark at the very bottom. So here's Crazy Mouse. Follow Crazy Mouse down. Click on the green checkbox. It's going to do the whole recomposing thing. All right. So there's the status bar. Let it go through the motions, and voila, in just a minute. Voila, excuse me, with a V. Let's do that. And we're good. It's done. All right. Now what you want to do, if you try to print this, it's going to still try to print on a 12 by 12 canvas, because you can see that 12 by 12 canvas there. Even if you tell it 8.5 by 11, it'll still make your file wonky and try to print it on a 12 by 12 canvas. Now what you have to do is, here's Crazy Mouse. See Crazy Mouse? Right here. Down to the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little button that's titled Photo Bin. Click on your photo bin. There's that initial background document that we used. Okay? You're going to take the image that we just recomposed, and you're going to drag it up to the 8.5 by 11 document, and boom. There you have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with no distortion, no cropping. You get the whole shebang, my friends. All right, now you hit print. And when you hit print, you get this beauty right here. And again, it's not identical in color because these are two different printers. Okay, next, my friends, I'm going to show you how to create your own stationery. All right, so this is my Revoir collection. Sorry, this is still Ciao Italia. This is my Revoir collection. I created a letter for you guys. I will be posting it so you can see it. And I created my stationery. And all it is that 8.5 by 11 You're going to do those steps first, and then you're going to do a third step. Okay, and look at how beautiful. My 8.5 by 11 printer does not do borderless. So it always comes out with a border, and I have to cut the border off so I can get this. Okay, so I will be doing that. See, I did it here. And this is all my stationery paper that's going to go into my stationery box. Okay, just absolutely stunning, guys, this paper collection. Truly, truly stunning. So, au revoir and ciao Italia. All right, I'll make sure that you are linked to those. So if you loved them and you thought that you could not use them because they're 12 by 12, you can. You just need Photoshop Elements 2018. All right, let's change the camera view. Let's go back to my desktop. Let's go back to Photoshop. So here we are with the Ciao Italia paper. You need a third layer. So you're going to open up, File, New, Blank. Your layer, you have to size it. It has to be smaller than the actual 8.5 by 11, right? Because you want to create this white transparent box over the paper that will be the area that you're going to print on. So you can make this whatever size you want. You can make whatever margins you want. I personally like 6.5 by 9 for my stationery. Okay, so change that to 6.5 by 9. I change nothing else. I say, okay, I'm going to get a third layer. Okay, there is my third layer. So this layer here is opaque. It's at 100% opacity. When you go to your 8.5 by 11 paper and you drag it over, you're going to get a big old white box right over your paper. You can absolutely use this as stationery. A lot of stationery looks like this. I personally like to have some transparent quality to my stationery. I want to see what's behind that white box. So if you look at Crazy Mouse, see Crazy Mouse over here? Crazy Mouse. Oh. Also, Photoshop is very temperamental. If you do one little click that you're not supposed to, you get a stinking box. All right? Something that like, oh my God. Just click OK and keep it moving. So here's Crazy Mouse. If you go all the way to the right where it says normal, see normal? You're going to click overlay. And there's your overlay. All right? You don't want that. You want to change the opacity to 50%. I personally like 50%, all right? But if you want, you can do 23%, which is just a little bit, you see a little difference? I personally like 50%. All right, so I go all the way to 50%. And, well, sorry, my bad. 50%, let me just type the number in there because it's just easier. 50% and, hold on. Go back to normal, my bad, go back to normal. And then you go to 50%, okay? Now you have to click check again, check. And you get that overlay and it looks beautiful. So normal and 50% opacity, okay? Is all you have to do to change that white box. Overlay is when I do something else, which is not important right now. So look at how beautiful that looks. If you want it a little whiter, just change it, go to 60%. Okay, if you think that your text is not going to show up there or, it's just not stationery-esque, go to 60% and you get something that looks like this, which I think is fantastic. All right, so now for you to say in Photoshop, let's go back to the photo bin down here, left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner. You're going to see your 3 files, your 3 layers, right? In Photoshop, this is 3 individual files. This is not one file. So what you want to do is you want to save this file. So once you're done, you're going to click on Layer and you're going to flatten the image. Once you click on Flatten, focus on my mouse here, go all the way back to the right. You see these 3 documents? That's going to become one. All right, so click on Flatten. It becomes one document. Done. This is what you save. Okay, so we're going to do File, File, Save As, and we're going to call this, we don't want it in Photoshop. I want it back in my Ciao Italia folder. All right, and you can save it as a JPEG. Click on JPEG, and you're going to call it, what what you can call it whatever you want. But this one is, what is this one? This one right here. So it's Italian number 4, but I'm going to rename it to stationary because that's what it is. Well, stationary, and the file name is Italian number 4. So I'm going to save that. Okay, and it's going to say quality high. Yes, everything's high. I don't change anything. Okay, I just say okay. And that's it. And you'll always have that there. If you want the stationary without the overlay, you will have to do it again. So you want to save in between layers, if you will, if that makes sense. So to get the stationary back, you're going to have to do File. Whoopsie. Stop it. Let me just save this again. You want to do File, New, whoopsie, File, New, blank. So see how Photoshop saves the last command? My last command was to size this at 6.5 by 9. So now you have to change it to 8.5 by 11 again. All right, okie dokie. There's that document. Now go back to your photo bin, down left-hand corner or bottom left-hand corner, and now you're going to drag your resized image to that 8.5 by 11 canvas that we just created. We're going to go to Layer and we're going to Flatten, and we're going to save that as an 8.5 by 11. So Save As. I don't want to save it as a Photoshop file, so it defaulted to the JPEG. So now we're going to see our stationaries there, stationary Italian. This one is going to be called same Italian 4, but it's going to be called 8.5 by 11. Or you can create a folder that says 8.5 by 11 and then just dump them in there. Okay? And done. And again, hit OK. Just leave everything the same. Unless you know what you're doing and you want to change it, by all means, go ahead. But if you don't know what you're doing, just leave it alone. All right, and you're done. And now when you try to close, it's going to ask you if you want to save this, that, and the other. No, you don't. You save the files that you wanted to save. You're done. And now we're back to me. All right, so that's how you do it, guys. That's it. It is that simple and that fabulous. All right, so now you can take all of those 12 by 12 images, collections that you love that I have in my shop or anybody else's collection, guys, and print it at 8.5 by 11 if you have Adobe Photoshop 2018 or whatever other Adobe Photoshop. All right. I don't know a lot about Adobe Photoshop. Again, as I stated previously, I only know what I know. But if you have a question for me, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll be happy to try to answer it. Or if I don't know, I will tell you I don't know and we'll try to research it together and figure it out. Or perhaps somebody can chime in and help us out. Once again, if you like what you see on this channel, leave me a comment, like, subscribe. I'll link you down below to these 2 amazing collections and I'll see you in the next one. This is Kathy with Paper Phenomenon, and until next time.